Hey, GLP-1 plus sides community. Before we jump into the podcast, please take the time to leave us a 5-star review on whatever audio platform you're listening to the podcast on. Share your story and how the podcast has helped you. This will help us get referred up in the audio platform so that we can reach more people that need our help, our support, and guidance from our doctors. Help us get loud and change things. Are you interested in understanding GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, wegovy, or Mounjaro? Then join us on the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, the groundbreaking podcast helping people change their lives one episode at a time. The Plus Sides podcast is a disruptor. We're breaking down barriers, smashing stereotypes, and sharing inspiring stories that'll leave you feeling informed and empowered. Join us every week to learn from doctors who are specialists around GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, wegovy, and Mounjaro. They'll provide you with science and facts to validate these incredible stories. But that's not all. We'll also bring you the voices of the GLP-1 Mounjaro TikTok community, real people who face the challenges of obesity-related diseases and disorders and discovered the incredible plus sides of GLP-1 medications. Our episodes are filled with heartwarming stories, laughter, and moments of triumph. You'll connect with our amazing community members who are reclaiming their health and experiencing their fullest lives. Are you ready to embark on a journey of discovery and empowerment? Tune in to the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, and together we'll change the narrative around obesity and end the stigma. Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and join our incredible community. Let's celebrate the plus sides of life together because every story deserves to be heard. Every life deserves to shine, and everyone deserves access to expert knowledge and medication. The Plus Sides Podcast. You're not alone. It's not your fault. Hey everyone, before we dive in, I really want to share something personal with you. About, I want to say like 8 to 10 months ago, after losing 100 pounds on GLP-1s and keeping it off for a long time, I started regaining out of nowhere, and I was terrified. But I also started having hot flashes and bouts of crying and snacky cravings and waking up at 3 a.m. unable to go back to sleep. It turns out I was in perimenopause. So I started hormone replacement therapy, which is also called HRT, through a telehealth called Winona that specializes in this. And it changed everything. And now I'm sleeping better and my hot flashes are all but gone, thank God. And I feel like myself again. And it turns out that you can actually start perimenopause as early as 35. And well, I'm 46 and she's here. HRT has really come a long way and there's just no need to suffer anymore. So if you're like this and you're in the same boat, you can check out buywinona.com and you can use the link in our link tree to save some money.
Want the fastest working GLP-1? For half the price, Ro now offers FDA-approved weight loss injections cheaper. With results you can see faster. Lose 15% of your weight with the formula from Eli Lilly that hits not one, but 2 hormones to curb hunger and nausea. Weight loss faster, confidence higher, price cheaper. See if you qualify at ro.co/TV.
Let's do it.
Welcome to the Plus Sides Podcast.
Welcome, everybody.
Hey, Kat, how you doing?
Hi there.
Hey, how's it going?
Going great. It's good.
Are you excited about this episode? I'm so excited.
I'm really excited. I'm kind of geeked out a little bit.
Oh,
and then we get to speak to Mike as well.
We do. I know. I'm so excited. I know it's going to be great. So what we're trying to do this season in the community is have more people that are voices in the community that want to come on and co-host with us. We haven't organized that yet, but when we do, and I have a form, I'm going to let you know. But for this week, it's going to be Mike. If you're new here, we're going to go around and just do intros so you know who we are. If you are not like new here and you're a reg, this is your cue to fast forward. Don't complain.
We go faster now. We're not teenage
hundreds
girls.
of people find us every week. What do you want from me? We got to tell them who we are. Okay. So my name is Kim. This is the Plus Sides Podcast. I have been on GLP-1 medications for almost 3 years now. They have completely changed my life, my brain, my health, everything. And I've lost 100 pounds. And it is a journey, and it is not, the medicine doesn't do it all. There's so much to it. And I think it's really important to learn and understand those things from a physical perspective, intellectual, and mental as well. I think that sometimes The medicine does a lot of the work for us in terms of getting our bodies to work right. But I think that we've got to make sure that we're discussing what to do with your brain because it's crazy.
Right.
So we do this podcast. This podcast is ranked in the top 1.5% globally. Like we're big in other countries and everything. And we're multi-award winning. So it's a very reputable source. So if you're new here, this is where you want to be. This is where you want to be. Okay.
Welcome to the fold.
Welcome to the fold. We're so glad to have you. We are also an advocacy podcast. So we do lots of things and speak on other podcasts and stuff like that to try to get loud and change things. So we're so glad to have you here. And I'm going to pass it over to Kat. Tell me who you are. What are you doing?
Hey, I'm Kat Carter. Also have been on the MJs on Mounjaro. Mounjaro. Sometimes my Midwestern accent does slip up in there a little bit. But I've been on it since 2022. I am what you would call a slow responder. I think perimenopause kind of made that kind of fun last year for me, but we got that squared away as well. So now I'm currently at an 85-pound loss. I do love fitness. I loved fitness at 320 pounds, and I also love fitness at 230. So
yeah, absolutely.
It has no size. Hallelujah.
And our special guest host. Who are you? What you doing? Why are you here? Tell me all things.
Hi, I'm Mike. I guess I'm a TikTok creator. I don't know. I'm a type 2 diabetic. I am on Mounjaro 10.0. I have lost 103 pounds on Mounjaro at this point. It gave me the ability to do all the things I needed to do that I wasn't able to do before, right? The moment I took it and the food noise shut down, I was suddenly eating better. And now I work out, which is crazy. So yeah, it's completely changed my life.
Yeah. Fantastic. I love it. All right. So today, and I'm going to tell you how this all came about. Mike made a TikTok. And he was like, hey guys, did you know that the former FDA commissioner takes a GLP-1 and he wrote this book about it? And I was like, he did? And I was like, fantastic. And it presented that there may be some opposing views there to maybe our narrative. Mm-hmm. And something that we've been trying to do on the podcast this season is make sure we're not in a vacuum, right? And that we are considering different perspectives and different ways. And so I thought this was perfect. And so I reached out to his people. Good news. He wanted to come on the podcast. Yay. So we can learn. So thanks to Mike, this is happening. So Mike's here to do this with us. And we're so excited. Okay. Yay. Here we go. Well, hello, Mike.
Hi, how are you?
We're doing good. How are you?
Mike.
I'm good. How are you, Kat?
Excited. See you not in person. Right?
Yeah, it's wild, right? I've listened to you guys forever. So this is awesome.
Well, and we're so glad to have you. Mike, what Kat and I usually do, because we are chatty, we usually will just go on mute and let you tell your community story, because if not, we'll go, oh my God, really? And we'll just get into it with you. And
I totally get it. Yeah.
That's why our podcast used to be 2 and 3 hours long.
Yep.
So we're going to be quiet. We would love for you to tell your story and just take the space, and then we can be open to questions and conversations if you're cool with it.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So I am Mike. I am on Mounjaro, and I got there 15 months ago. I was preparing to die, frankly. I'd gotten so heavy, and I was approaching 400 pounds, and I could feel my body at 50 starting to fail me. And Mounjaro saved my life. Gave me my life back. I've always been a bigger kid. I shouldn't say always. It probably started at the age of 6. I got diagnosed with hyperactivity disorder in the late 70s, right? And there was a medication back then. And so what I was prescribed was a diet. I didn't have a weight problem, but I had a diet, and it was to not eat chocolate, not eat caffeine, and a whole bunch of other products that would be seen as making me hyperactive. And I think that started creating my obsession around food, right? When you're told as a kid you can't have, I sought it out. And by the age of 7, I can remember very vividly at my first communion in my little white suit, my great Aunt Jay tapping my belly and saying, "What's going on here?" And that was the first time that I realized that other people were able to see what was going on and that I was eating too much. By 8 or 9, my pediatrician wanted to see me every 3 months to go over my diet and exercise. And so I became sort of medicalized in how I saw this. And I carried a lot of guilt and a lot of shame, and it completely felt like my fault. right? Like it was my problem. And as I grew up, I ended up in Weight Watchers in high school. I come from a very athletic family. My brothers are jocks. My dad is like an umpire and a baseball coach and the whole bit. And I was the non-athletic one. I was the one that couldn't run the mile in 7 minutes ever. I couldn't even run around the soccer field, frankly, without going out of breath. And so, yeah, it was a lot. I became the heavy kid, although when I look back at my photos, I wasn't the heaviest kid and I wasn't that heavy, but in my head, I was huge. And that continued. I got to college. I finally didn't have anyone controlling what I ate. And I would do really well at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But late at night, 11 o'clock at night, I'd order Domino's. And it would be delivered to the dorm and I could eat the whole thing. And if I didn't eat the whole thing the next morning, I'd have the other half cold. And my weight just kept going up. By late college, early 20s, I was sitting at about 285. And that was my set weight for the great majority of my 20s, 30s, and 40s. In my mid 20s, I came out of the closet, and it was really weird being in my first gay bars. I went with thinner friends, and I could see people's look of horror if I talked to them, if they thought I was going to be hitting on them or something like that. It was, I knew right away that I didn't belong. At some point, I found what is called the bear community. It's this sort of subculture in the gay community of sort of masculine men who don't like shave their body hair, but also body positivity around weight. And that was great. And I found my audience, but also I found a lot of people who fetishized my weight, right? Who saw that as something that was really attractive. And that was interesting. It was helpful, but then it was also scary. And so when I met my husband, it took me a while to feel safe in my relationship that if I suddenly decided to get healthy and lose weight, that it wouldn't go away. Right. There was this moment where early on we were dating and I said that I thought Brad Pitt was attractive and he stopped and said, "Oh my God, he's the most gorgeous man." And I was like, wait, I have found my guy, right? He gets it. He's going to be okay if I also got healthy again. And that created this safety, and we've been together now since 2007, right? It created that safety. He was in med school at the time, and we were going long distance for a long time. And then eventually we got married, he moved in, and it was interesting to watch him suddenly be on my diet plan because I'm the one that was cooking. I was bringing all the food in, and suddenly his weight started to go up. And I realized I was doing that, right? I probably got to about 330 before the pandemic started. And then the pandemic hit and I went up to 372. I think he hit into the 260s. And things just started to fail. I hit 50. I couldn't walk more than 2 or 3 blocks and not be in excruciating pain with my back. So I couldn't even really exercise at that point. So even if I tried to do better eating wise, like I wasn't doing the other piece that was going to support weight loss. And I went to see a specialist, and a specialist about something completely different noted that my glucose levels in my blood were up. And I'd been avoiding seeing a doctor. I hated going to the doctor. I hated getting weighed in. It was such a shaming experience. But I realized I had to contact my primary care doctor and physically go in and get blood work because I suspected I had type 2 diabetes. And I'd been thinking about Ozempic for a while. I'd been talking about it, but I was so afraid of admitting that it was my fault that I was going to have to take a medication when other people could do this without it, right? And I went in and said, I think I might have type 2 diabetes, but if I don't care. I want Ozempic. And it came back about 10 days later that, in fact, I was type 2 diabetes, and I didn't know what a blessing it would be in this messed up system to get access to the medication that way. But then he prescribed me Mounjaro, and I was pissed because I didn't know what that was. I knew what Ozempic was. It was the name brand, right? And so I got on it, and I responded really well. So I've lost, since my start weight, between when I actually went to that doctor the first time, I was 372. There was still a period of time before I got my diagnosis. There was still a whole other period before I got my PA. And then it was the middle of the shortages, right? March of 2024. And there was still a long while before I actually got access to the medication. And over that period, I lost 12 pounds. So I hit 360. So on Mounjaro, I've lost 103 pounds at this point. Yeah, I've lost a significant portion of my body weight. I'm down to 257 as of this morning, which is interesting, right? Because my husband was so upset about hitting 363. And I'm so happy to be just 5 pounds or so lower than where he was, right? To me, this is heaven, and to him, that was hell. And that's just been so interesting to see that journey in parallel. He did most of his weight loss. He's lost a lot as well. I think he's down about 75 pounds. He did about 40 of that just changing the food that was coming into the house. Literally that changed. He hit about 320, and then he had seen how I was doing. And so he jumped on tirzepatide, and now he's down in the 180s. And so between the two of us, we've lost a significant amount of weight over the last 15 months, and it's completely given us our lives back. And in a way, I feel like it's giving me my voice back too. I feel like I found something I'm super passionate about. I like to get loud. I like to put myself in places where my voice might resonate, and I'm not afraid to use it, right? And so I appreciate the opportunity to be on your platform and to talk about it, because we're not going to make any change if we just sit back. We have to get loud, as you say, Kim, and we have to put ourselves in places where it's uncomfortable, but we have to share in conversations with the people who are making decisions. So thank you.
I love that. We're so glad to have you here. Mike, that was so great. Thank you. I'm so appreciative of your voice. I started following you early on, and I do remember when you made a video and it just like struck me. And it was one where you were talking about that you were just prepared to be done. You just, there was no way out. I know that feeling. Kat and I for sure have had feelings like that where it's like, I give up. Yep. And it's because like, what do you do, right? When you bounce around all these years, right, with this. And I think that, I'm curious how you feel about this. So like for me, when I went to the doctor, I went to the doctor for my son and my husband. I did not go for myself, because I had nothing left. And even though I had a baller career, amazing friends, and amazing family, things and stuff and all the things that many people are not as fortunate to have, but I still went to the doctor for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I had been preparing all the things that needed to be prepared so that he would be okay when I died, and I'd expect to die unexpectedly from a heart attack. So yeah, no, I went for him because I knew he'd be all a mess. But yeah, no, it's a lot. It's a lot. I remember posting that video, Kim. I have this tendency to turn my camera on when I'm in a moment, which isn't always the best decision, but I tend to do it. And I remember specifically, someone said to me, "Oh, you put that in there as a hook to be like, I'm probably going to delete this," but I actually really meant it. I had every full intention of deleting that video.
I get it.
Yeah.
And I think it's been seen 700,000 times now. And the comments just got so heavy at some point because so many people were talking about the fact that they now needed help. And it was just overwhelming. I remember like begging other advocates to just hop in and please try to answer the questions because I just couldn't take it all.
Yeah.
And that, I've had that happen a few times, but that one, like, it changed my entire way of viewing what I share on social media and how it can help.
Yeah, I think it's great. I remember you talking about like when you were at Disney, you guys went to Disney, right? And that was like I feel like that was just a big story. I know that feeling. I look back when we went to Disney and I couldn't even enjoy it, Mike. Like it was, I couldn't, and I was trying to watch the joy in my son's face as he was enjoying Disney, but I was in so much pain,
Yeah. What it prompted, that's actually that video. My husband said to me, he said to me while we were at Disney, that he thought the next time we'd be there, I'd be on the scooters. He just assumed that was going to be the case. And, when Mounjaro hit, it hit me fast. I was within 3 weeks. I hadn't lost a lot of weight, but I'd lost so much inflammation. I could now walk like 25 minutes as opposed to 2 blocks. Right?
Yeah.
So we enjoyed Disney like 2.5, 3 months after I started the medication. And that sort of prompted the discussion. And when he said that, that's when I told him that I had been preparing all the things that needed to be prepared so he could be okay without me.
Yeah, I understand. Well, I am so thankful for you coming and telling your story, and very thankful for the content that you make to help our community. And I'm really excited to have you for this special episode today.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
How about we invite in our special guest and we talk through things a little bit? How's that sound?
That'd be awesome. I can't wait.
All right, let's find Augustin. Here we go. Hi, Dr. Kessler. How are you?
How are
Hi,
you?
thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're so glad to have you.
I'm very excited to be here.
We like your book.
That book is great.
Good book.
Book is great.
I've only read the most recent one. I didn't read the one before. But
That's okay. In fact, if you read this one, I'm enormously thankful.
Yeah.
Now you can tell me, what did I get right? What did I get wrong?
Well, for everybody for everyone who's listening, it's called Diet, Drugs, and Dopamine.
Yes.
It's great.
Man, that's a hook right there, Dr.
It's
Kessler.
really
You sure you're not a content creator? It's a
Great
good
alliteration.
Yeah, for sure. So what we wanted to, how we always start with these is we want people to understand a little bit about who you are. So if you could tell us who you are and how you help people, we would love to hear that.
So I'm a doc by training. I've had the opportunity not only to be a doc, work in the emergency room, work in the hospitals of the city of New York. I ran a hospital. I was medical director in the Bronx. Had the privilege of a number of stints in public health and in government service. First as FDA Commissioner back in the 1990s under the first President Bush and under President Clinton. We did the food label. We took on the tobacco industry. Worked on getting HIV drugs for HIV to people who desperately needed them when they didn't have access or no drugs. Was dean of 2 medical schools, both Yale and UCSF, and then got pulled back in to co-lead Operation Warp Speed during COVID. So did some 676 million vaccines within 5 miles of everybody, free, an intense period. And we got to the other side of this pandemic. I think we tend to forget how truly intense that period was. I have suits in every size. I've gained and lost my body weight repeatedly. I was always able to get it off for a while, but I would gain it right back. Found myself after Operation Warp Speed about 40 pounds heavier. Wanted to understand everything about this mystery of weight. I had written several prior books on food processing, on fat, sugar, and salt, but I really wanted to understand this mystery of weight. So that led up to Diet, Drugs, and Dopamine.
Quick pause here. I've had moments on my GLP-1 journey where insurance changes or rising costs force me to look for a new provider. And honestly, that process can feel very overwhelming. But that's why the Plus Sides podcast has partnered with GLP Winner to give our subscribers a resource to help them make that decision easier. GLP Winner is a comparison platform that lets you explore telehealth providers in all 50 states, whether you're looking for brand name medications or compounded options. You can see pricing up front, read reviews, and get a clear picture of which provider might align best with your needs. Check it out today at glpwinner.com/plus-sides. That's glpwinner.com/plus-sides. Don't forget the Z. Let me tell you a quick story. I was telling Kat how I was regaining weight after my 100-pound loss using GLP-1 medications, and I was having snacky cravings and waking up at 3 a.m. and I had hot flashes, and I was worried. But Kat was like, listen, I went through this last year. It's perimenopause, and I started HRT, and she used this company called Winona. So I started going there to see if this was something that was going with me. Turns out it was, because I'm 46. And it's been amazing. It's taken a while to find the right dose, but once I did, it's just been huge. I've been sleeping. I feel more myself again. And the hot flashes are gone, which is, geez, really bad. So I will tell you, it's just been so big for me. And so I wanted to partner with them on the podcast because obviously many of our listeners are going through the same age range and definitely are having these issues. And there's just no need for you to suffer. So if you go to the link that's in our link tree, you can click on that and save money. If you go there and you meet all the criteria, and this might be something for you to try. So I just want to make sure you had this great resource because it's just been such a big difference for me and Kat. Again, you can go to the link in our link tree and get what you need.
"20 seconds a week to lose 20% of your weight in a year with diet and exercise." That's the power of GLP-1s through Ro. Ro helps find the medication that's right for you, based on cost, availability, and your weight loss goals. Losing weight with GLP-1s is possible through Ro.
Fantastic. I thought one of the coolest things I heard in your book is you were talking about all your accomplishments, yet you struggled with weight and obesity. And one of the first episodes, or our first season on the podcast, I had an episode where we talked about my story, and I called that specifically, I was trying to title like you. I called it Fat and Lazy, because I don't think there's such a thing. I think there are sick people that need care and they need medicine and they get that. And I don't think that's a thing. Like, everybody I've ever met with obesity has always been baller. Like, especially when they get treated and they start to feel better, I think can accomplish even more than maybe people that live in a regular sized body. Why that is, I don't know. But I mean, I think it was just a really good point in your book, I thought.
Well, I mean, again, I don't think, again, had the privilege, with others to take on big, hard, challenging questions through my life. No one ever accused me of lack of discipline, of not being able to get stuff done. But when it came to weight, it was well beyond my control. I think if anything, right, what these GLP-1 drugs show and demonstrate unequivocally, hopefully we can all agree that those drugs work through biology, and it's biology, at work, and that basically should answer the question that, this is not about willpower, this is about biology.
Yeah, absolutely. So true. I think one of the things that we were all very interested in with your book is around your sort of fight with pig tobacco. So you describe ultra processed foods as sort of like the new cigarette, right? So what do you really mean by that? I mean, we know because we read it, but what do you mean by that? If you could tell our audience. And when you were at the FDA, what did it reveal sort of about this distinction, I think, with the food? I personally, it took me a while to be able to have this conversation about food. I didn't want to demonize it. I do now have a healthy relationship with food, right? But I don't, because I've been on a diet since I was 8, So for me, like dealing with obesity so long, I couldn't even consider that we would discuss the things that are probably wrong with the food or kind of villainize food in any way. But I feel like it's a thing, Dr. Kessler, and we got to talk about it. Help us.
So I don't think it's food, right? I think it's it's these ultra formulated foods.
Yes.
I don't think, it's the foods that occur in nature.
Mm-hmm.
In order, back, when we were at FDA, I had learned everything about what the tobacco industry knew about addiction.
Yeah.
And I think we have to rethink that term addiction.
Yeah.
Addiction is something, some people think, it's about people who are weak, the downtrodden. And I don't think, that's the case. You go back thousands of years, right? In an environment of scarcity, those who could find food, those whose brain could look for food, those whose brain could attend, right, to gate their attention, right? In an environment of scarcity, that assured survival, that ability, if I'm a bird flying over, to detect, where that nourishment would come from, the ability to look for that and our attention being captured by food, right? Switch that environment, not to an environment of scarcity, but to an environment of abundance, of energy-dense food, right? Put fat, sugar, and salt on every corner, make it available 24/7, make it socially acceptable to eat any time. We're living in a food circus, put all this energy-dense food out there. I mean, there's nothing wrong with our brains. If anything, our brains are working only too well in an energy-dense environment. If you look, the key test at FDA and also my colleagues at National Institute of Drug Abuse and the DEA to determine whether a drug should be labeled as, quote, addictive, has reinforcing potential, is whether animals will press a lever for that food, right? Whether they will work for it. It's called self-administration. And we saw those tests being done by the tobacco industry and also by my colleagues at the National Institute of Drug Abuse. They would do these self-administration tests, and they'd always have a bottle of sugar water also there. And I asked them, why were they using that to get animals to press the lever also? And they never paid attention to that question. What was it about sweetness that, was also, self-administered? And you realize that both ultra-formulated foods, right? It's these combinations, this perfect trifecta, right? Of fat, sugar, and salt and their combinations, right? That really, as well as nicotine, they're psychoactive, right? I mean, what do I mean by that? Anything that's psychoactive is something that can change how we feel. I mean, so, my guess is if I were born 2 decades earlier, I would have been a smoker. I use food, certain foods to calm me down, to stimulate me, to focus attention. If it's 10 o'clock at night, I got several hours more to work. I'm tired. I'm fatigued. I need to get through this. That conversation in my head. Do I go down to the refrigerator? Do I not? It's not good for me. Yeah, but I got to get through these next 3-4 hours. And then it builds. And you see that addiction really has 3 key elements. Besides the self-administration in laboratory animals, it has first this cue-induced wanting, right? What's a cue? A cue could be the time of day. It could be a smell. It could be the location. It could be a thought. It could be a feeling. And that cue, triggers it. There's an automaticity. It triggers these thoughts of wanting, right? And if you have the food and it's available to you, and you don't try to resist, and you just it's there all the time, you don't even notice it, right? But if you try to withhold, you try to interrupt that cue-induced wanting, right? Then you have craving, right? And then the third piece, besides this cue-induced wanting and this craving, is this issue of relapse. I mean, in addiction. And for me, it sort of dawned on me. I would always be able to lose weight, right? I mean, I'd go on a diet, I'd lose weight. I thought I was done, but I would gain it back. And sure, there's metabolic adaptation, and a change in some of the energy, expenditure, those circuits. There's a decrease in energy expenditure, metabolic adaptation. But that relapse, it was, in my case, that was just weight regain. Those addictive circuits were there. I mean, go back, lose the weight, don't change those addictive circuits, go back to that environment. It's filled with this energy-dense food, and those circuits are there. I mean, those circuits are part of all of us. So I think that, again, you want to call it addiction, you want to call it pre-addiction, you want to call it dysfunctional, disordered eating. Watch a smoker, right? Watch a smoker through the day. When do they pick up a cigarette?
First thing.
Yeah, and when do they pick it up again?
After food.
You can almost watch a smoker through the day, use it to regulate how they feel, right?
True.
Watch me eat, right? I mean, I can graze with the best of them throughout the day, right? And I just used food to change how I feel. I mean, nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's psychoactive. And again, let me just step back if I can. I think the most important thing, and in doing this book, the recognition that this is not about weight. Okay, I don't care how big you are, how small you are, right? I don't care what size you are. to me, this is about one thing. And, you ask how I help, right? I mean, how I'd like to help. I mean, this is about health, right? Now, when nothing worked, right? Let's admit it. When diets, this mantra of eat less, exercise more, right, was the biggest failure. Why? Because no one could do it. Why? Because you have these addictive circuits, so you can't eat less. Or at least in my case, I couldn't eat less. I mean, but whether it's diet or drugs or surgery, the only way to get in what I call this toxic fat, this visceral adiposity, this metabolically active fat that gets into our liver, into our pancreas, into our heart, into our organs, that release this inflammatory soup, of chemicals that is causative in much of cardiac disease, of diabetes, of several forms of cancer and kidney disease, and potentially these neurodegenerative diseases. You have this toxic fat, and that is what I care about. But in an environment where there weren't effective tools, I mean, if nothing worked, and I kept on losing the weight, but I would gain it back. I mean, rightfully so. I mean, with all the fact that we can have this discussion, and let me applaud you. It's so hard to talk about this stuff, right? I mean, let's admit it, there's so much shame and so much stigma, and I mean, even men being able to talk about this, that when you realize that weight peaks probably over a lifetime, somewhere between 55 and 65, right? That 1 to 2 pounds a year. Many times it ends up, it starts in childhood and adolescence, regrettably. You add up that 1 to 2 pounds a year, it's just even beginning at your 20s, even if you're relatively lean in your 20s, by the time you're 55, right? That beer belly that came into the culture, right? I mean, that we would joke about, that we seem to accept. I mean, that visceral adiposity, that fat in those organs, I mean, that has a dramatic health consequences. But if nothing worked, I mean, what do you do? I mean, so, rightfully so, and a lot of credit to the body positivity movement, right? I mean, because last thing we want to do is shame or stigma. I mean, especially when you can't do anything about it. But then, so now the question is, and this is one of the central questions, and really want to know what you think about this, is, can you still love your body but still do something about your health?
Yes.
That's a big question.
Yes.
And can we talk about it without shaming and without stigma? Right.
I love the person I was before so much, because that was the body that got me into the space that allowed me to make the change and move forward. Right.
So look, the only issue, the real issue of choice to me is not whether you can control your relationship with food, because you can't. Right. I mean, let me say something that, maybe is a bit overstated, but I think you talk about relationship with food. I think the vast majority of us in this energy dense, highly palatable, highly glycemic index, highly processed, energy dense foods, I think the majority of us experience disordered eating, right? Yeah. I mean, I actually have less interest in understanding why people, struggle with their weight. I'm more interested in that 15% of the population who have no idea what we're talking about, right? For whom food is not very salient. I mean, how are their brains wired, and what captures their brains and what's salient, right?
How do we bottle that?
How do you bottle that? They wasn't done very well back thousands of years ago in an environment of scarcity, right? And
right, exactly.
I think I have a pretty good eye. I think there are some hints in this medicine, in these new GLP-1s. I think they explain a lot of the biology. But to me, this is about visceral adiposity. And at the core of that visceral adiposity, I mean, that's health. Can we do something about that? Because that really is contributing to an enormous number of years of disability. We may not live less, I think, my guess is men, a number of years that men live less than women is because of this beer belly, because of this visceral adiposity, because of this metabolic disease that translates into, cardiac disease, renal disease, cancer.
Mm-hmm.
But being able to grapple with that, and at the core of that, is this highly palatable, highly processed, energy dense, addictive food that our brains are wired. So the only real choice I think you have is the choice whether you want to do something about it.
Yeah.
And then and up until now, it's been very hard to do anything. Yeah. Finally, I think there's an ability, if you want to, you can regain your health. But it's not simple. There's no magic pills. It's a toolkit. It's a lifetime endeavor. It's hard work. And you can't do it. I think it's very hard to do it yourself. You need support. You need a good doc. You need a dietitian. You need colleagues because these addictive forces are very powerful.
Absolutely. I think that's such a good point. And I wanted to tell you, like, the coolest thing I think that I've heard you say too is that this is not about weight, right? And I think that when you struggled with obesity, especially if it's been for many, many years or most of your life, like honestly, all three of us, I think that when you go into the doctor, they tell you a lot of times this, because that's what they knew, right? This is the things you need to fix, eat less, move more. So you, in your brain, I think a lot of times, at least people in our community, when we come in, we kind of tend to diet culture the shit out of this. Like, we get our medicine and we're thinking about it like phentermine, and we're thinking about it like Metabolife, and we're going to do our weigh-in days, and we're going to do our shot days, and we're do these things around accountability and all these different things. And then over time, you start to be like, are you guys feeling this? Like, what's going on with our brain? Like, and everything starts to change.
Sure, absolutely. Let's also stipulate, and I'm allowed to say this because I'm card carrying, I'm board certified,
yes.
Right. And I know this stuff, right? I've been in two medical schools. The medical profession, doesn't know a lot about this.
No, still,
doesn't.
Still, Dr. Kessler, can we get them on the book? For God's sakes.
And I love them dearly. Every meeting I go to, the majority of them are paid for by the pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah.
So, look, I understand, that doesn't mean they're doing anything wrong, but I just, to get honest answers, and to really figure out how these drugs work and how to use them. Right.
Yes.
You two or you three, let's go through. How long have you each been on these?
3 years for me.
It's been almost 3 years.
15 months. Okay. Average data in this country is, what do you think the average length of time people are on these drugs?
2 to 3 years tops.
Average length. Scroll around.
I think it might be shorter than that from what some of the other, is it 15 months? Like, usually it's cost that keeps people from staying on it.
A lot of different reasons, right?
Yeah.
But the data that I've seen suggests that the average length people are on this about 8 to 9 months. That's the average.
8 to 9 months.
Okay. And so some of that is cost.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about cost in a second, right?
Oh, yeah.
Cost is outrageous. Some of this is adverse reactions, right? People being able to tolerate. Changes is very variable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Third, people just drug burden. People tend not to want to be on drugs their whole life.
Sure.
Right? But if in fact that's the case, that the average time people are on these are about 8 to 9 months, right? It means half are on this, for less, half of them are on this for more. Some will stay on this for life.
Yeah.
But we don't know, these drugs don't work when you're not on them, right?
Yeah.
You gain back the weight.
Right.
We can question mark. Is there anyway? But that's what the clinical studies show.
Right.
Right. And if everyone's on this for 8 to 9 months, everybody spends thousands of dollars taking these drugs, right? They lose the weight, but then in 3 to 5 years, they gain back the weight. We're going to look back on these drugs and say this is the biggest failure because everybody went off these drugs.
Yeah.
And so we got to figure out how to use these drugs and how to use these drugs wisely. And the question is, what are these drugs doing? Right? So let me ask you a question. How do these drugs make you feel?
Free.
Sorry?
I feel clear-headed. So I want to interject really, really quickly in here because I really loved your part in the book where you mentioned Overeaters Anonymous, because I was a member and TOPS. And in Overeaters Anonymous, we read the big book, the AA book, and you made so many connections between addiction and food. And I felt very seen. So I do appreciate that part.
How many diets
I took it left. Sorry, guys.
How many diets did you try?
Everything.
I did TOPS, Weight Watchers. What did you do, Mike?
Cabbage soup, Weight Watchers, active.
Vegetarian.
How long would it last?
3
My longest was a year.
3 months.
I have to say, OA helped the most because it wasn't. It was the notion of abstinence and eating, the 301, the principles of OA. It was mostly livable for me, but I still.
Do you feel like it got perspective? Is that what OA was for you? It just gave you perspective on how to maybe shift when you would want to overeat? I'm just curious.
Mickey Stunker, I don't know if you know that name, is probably one of the great docs in weight loss. Really, he was a psychologist, really understood this, University of Pennsylvania. And he found a group, one of the TOPS groups, I believe it was, where it started.
Yeah, you mentioned him, I think. Yeah.
And I asked him, what worked in his experience, and in the end, he concluded nothing worked. I mean, that was a pretty big, I talked before he died.
Right.
But some of these TOPS groups, I mean, they were they were so rigid. I mean, if you didn't show up at a meeting, you got cut from them. I mean, there was real structure, right? I mean, and so it was structured eating, right? But in some ways, it's it's like holding a life preserver, around you and trying to press that life preserver. You try to press the life preserver underwater.
Mm-hmm.
You can do it for a certain period of time, but it will always pop back up.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have these addictive circuits. You have these metabolic circuits, these energy circuits, right? And what happens when you try to resist against these addictive circuits, right? I think that they always pop back up. You can white knuckle this. You can do cabbage soup for a certain period of time, but we can all do something for a short period of time. But eventually we're going to get bored. Life's going to happen. Shit's going to happen, right? I mean, stuff's going to happen, and life's going to change. And I get diverted, and I can't maintain holding that life preserver down because I got to hold that life preserver down for something else.
Yep.
Right. So now along comes these medicines, right? And you say they're free, but let me ask you a question. Well, you say they make you feel free. They're certainly not free.
Well, it was sort of for me, I found this TikTok that I had made years ago when I first had the food noise turn off, and it didn't turn off immediately for me. It took some time. And I was describing to people that before the medicine, I was a car. And when I was a car, all I had was drive, and drive was eat, consume, consume, consume. And when I took the medicine and the food noise turned off, I all of a sudden had gears and a steering wheel and buttons, and I could navigate, and I was in control. And
you think the addictive circuits are gone?
That's what it was like.
Addictive circuits. You think you're free forevermore?
No, absolutely not. I've been on it 3 years. I've already gained 10 pounds back.
And 3 years, and no hint that they're still there, or a hint that they're still there?
No, I definitely have hints. And when I go through stress, my body's been changing.
So I stress you. I mean, right now, if I stress you, right, you stress me, right? Start yelling at me. I'm going to go upstairs. I'm going to get something to eat, and I'll come back down.
Last night I found a chocolate bar.
So what's food noise?
Yeah, exactly.
What is food noise? Everyone hears this term food noise.
It's just like an obsession, kind of.
Of course, but it's cue-induced wanting.
Yeah.
True.
It's just basically food noise just shuts down the cues don't have the kind of power over you. You're still, I mean, what did it for you? What triggered you in the past? walking by the refrigerator, time of day.
Yeah, I mean, like, also like events. So like I talk about this moment when I started like in the beginning and I was driving to get my hair done and have like my mom time where I was like alone and I was going to have my good tasty treats and reward myself. And I kept passing all the places I would usually stop. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna go get that. And then I went, no, I don't want that. And just the fact that I could shift and go, do I really want that? No, I really don't. Like just the fact that I could do that, I have never been able to do that before.
But those cues still exist.
Absolutely.
So the question is, what happened? All right. So let's also stipulate that we're each different. The one thing we all lose weight at a different rate on these drugs. We all experience different adverse reactions. It's very humble. Okay, the individual reaction. Let me tell you what. So I left Warp Speed. Right, I finished that. I was starting to write this book. I was 40 pounds heavier, at the end of Warp Speed than at the beginning of Warp Speed. Right. I wanted to lose that weight, so I went on my usual low carb kind of diet. But it took me, weight was coming off pretty slowly. I ended up in an emergency room because I had a kidney stone. They drew some bloods. I had an elevated calcium. Why did I have an elevated calcium? And it ended up being a lab error, but I didn't know that. I ended up in an endocrinologist's office who happened to be studying these GLP-1 drugs. And he said, well, do you want to go on it? And I said, well, I'm doing this book and I'm studying this stuff. And I said, go ahead. So I injected myself in the office. Then.
I could totally see you just be like,
even as a doc, he had to teach me how to inject myself. Yeah. Right? I mean, I put in hundreds of thousands and thousands of, needles. I mean,
what was that like? What surprised you about the medication? Like, what was that like?
Well, so the thing that I still, to this day, and I don't know whether it's not just me, right? Mm-hmm. But there was these intense chills initially. Mm-hmm. And I would ask the companies, you ever experienced these intense, what are these intense chills? They have no idea. Only when I found these researchers who were injecting in laboratory animals, and I said, what's going on? Why do I have these chills? And again, everyone's different. Oh, they said, well, we put it into, when we inject animals, and we inject some animals with placebo and some with the drug, the way we basically can tell whether the animals had the drug is we just feel their tails. And if their tails are cold, we know they've been on this drug. I mean, so when Dan Drucker, who was, one of the pioneers in this, again, with a predecessor drug to the GLP-1s, one of the very early GLP-1 molecules, but again, at a different dose. When he first injected these in animals, at high dose, these animals didn't move. They had visceral malaise. What's visceral malaise? Just this is generalized, illness. Let me tell you how I think this worked in me. Okay, and then we can talk about what your experiences were. So we know these drugs work both. They work in part by delaying gastric emptying. Right. So they slow down the movement of food through the stomach. Right. At least for me. So there's a feeling of fullness and satiety, and then there's Thanksgiving fullness. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. And then there's a sense of bloating, and then I can push you to sort of the edge of nausea, right? And then some people get pushed over to avert GI distress. Right. For me, what I felt was going on, right, was I could actually. It wasn't that I was nauseous, right? But this gradation of fullness. Again, this fullness, this Thanksgiving fullness, this edge of nausea. The titration of this, just food was staying in my stomach, and I didn't want to put anything else in my stomach, and I was sort of conditioned myself, right, to learn in order not to feel. I mean, I would feel this way. I feel a little blood, and I go, "Oh, it's working. I don't want to put anything else in my stomach." And I'm going to learn to eat less. So I would eat small portions and not the same kind of food. So there was, there was a real visceral, I felt this. Yeah. Right. And I think all of us are different. But for me, I was almost conditioning myself, right, to eat smaller amounts. I mean, what was it like for the three of you?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear the team too. Like, I think that for me, and this is one of the doctors on our show one time, he said, fullness is just a feeling. Like, it's not really an actual thing, right? Like, it's a feeling that you get in your brain. It's all done in your brain.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's also in your stomach. I mean, the food's staying in food's literally in your stomach.
Literally staying in your stomach.
Longer. I mean, and you and I mean, I think we've all experienced this. When you get the flu, your food doesn't move through your stomach. I mean, you lose your appetite a little. Yeah. You ever get food poisoning?
Oh, yeah.
Right there.
In your stomach, and you go, oh gosh. I mean, I can't put anything else in.
Yes.
Right. I mean, so what I think's and so these drugs we know definitely work on the hindbrain, right? The back part of the brain. And that there's something called the area postrema, the nuclear tract solitarius, the NTS. I mean, those are the aversive circuits, right? I mean, that also includes, the vomit center of the brain.
Aversive circuits, like I am food averse, like I'm not interested. Or aversive.
When I don't want food. Aversive meaning feeling bad. I mean, it protect me against poisons. I mean, so that and that slows down the motility of the GI tract. I'm not going to be absorbing glucose as rapidly. Food stays in my stomach longer. And that's the brain's working on my gut to slow down that gastric emptying.
Right.
Now, so you see this, what's the right word? I mean, it's not really nausea, right? But there's this, how do you describe it?
It's like a vague uninterest in food and kind of slight queasiness.
The slight queasiness.
And for me, I still have not gotten to that point. When I'm on it, I hit a nice, decent wall. Like I still follow a program. Like I don't a lot of us suffered from binge eating disorder before we got on the medication. So
everybody suffers from binge.
Yeah.
Come on.
I like that. I like your perspective. I appreciate that.
Right. If you don't suffer from binge eating disorder, right? First, change the definition of binge eating disorder. The fact that you have to eat 17 quarts over a period of time is not. I mean,
not anymore. But yeah, so it turned that off. Like I would hit a wall.
When you say hit a wall, there's only so much you can put in your stomach.
You're right. Yes, absolutely. But I don't get to
No. But that's the brilliance of this. Understand what they learned to do is that by adjusting these doses, they would push you to just that edge. If they pushed you over, it's a lot of people. Some people get pushed over and say, "I can't take this drug. I'm going to make them nauseous. I mean, I can't tolerate this drug." Right? But Mike said you use this word queasiness, and when you're queasy, what don't you want to do?
I want to eat.
What's strong enough to overcome the addictive circuits?
I don't know.
Well, aversion. Bingo. Right. So, I mean, all you're doing there is anyone have a copy of the book in front of you?
No, we did.
I have it on my phone.
There's a diagram of a seesaw of the addictive circuits or the reward circuits on the one hand, and these, for Mike's purposes, we'll call them the queasiness circuits, right?
Yeah.
They're the satiety circuits, the aversive circuits. So what you're basically doing is these. All you need to do is, if you're queasy once or twice or three times, what are you going to learn to do? Eat less. Now, is that queasiness with you all the time, Mike?
No, very rarely, because I know.
But is it enough to condition you so you're eating less? Does it teach you how to eat? Do you change your relationship with food?
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So here's what I think the secret is. Okay. I think that ultra-formulated foods, we could talk why I call them ultra-formulated rather than ultra-processed, but, very close. They're ultra-formulated foods are addictive.
Formulated sounds about right, man. Like we know
they're formulated. They're formulated so you can binge, right?
Yeah.
I don't know about you, Kat, but I ain't binging on broccoli.
No.
Agreed.
Fair? right?
That's very fair.
Ultra formulated. So here's the, here's the connection. Ultra formulated foods are addictive. With the GLP-1 drugs, is allow you to tamp down those addictive circuits. They allow you to change and condition how your relationship with food. Right?
Yeah.
That's what I think is going on. Everybody's going to be different. Some people will say, hey, I take these drugs and I don't feel anything and I just lose weight. Good for you. That's not me. Right. The drug companies want. I say these drugs are appetite suppressants and they bristle. No, these aren't. There's something magic about these drugs. These shut down appetite. Yeah. Now here's my concern. How much are you eating when you're on these drugs? When you're losing weight?
I have to force myself to eat. I don't eat enough.
How many calories? Come on.
I'm
probably getting 1,800.
15.
You're eating it, Kim, how many calories? When you're losing weight, how much are you eating?
I stopped losing weight. I would say I'm probably eating 1,500 calories.
When you were losing weight.
When I was losing weight.
The way these curves work, right? You lose weight rapidly and then you level off. That's true.
I for sure had days where I was like 500 calories.
Okay.
And then I had days
500 calories. Let's put this on the table. 500 calories is equivalent to what?
A meal.
500 calories a day is what? It's semi-starvation.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, indeed.
Right. And what happens with semi-starvation? Right. I mean, my colleague George Blackburn, back in the 1980s, put people in the hospital when he put them on 500 calories, 800 calories to watch their metabolic. Right. You have to be very careful. That has to be done very carefully.
Yes.
Right.
I remember that.
People are on 500, 800 calories a day. That's the stuff of malnutrition. Right. Yeah. And, again, it can be done safely, but it needs to be done under good care. Yes. And that concerns me. Right. Right.
Us too. Yeah.
Right. Now, the fact is, as with anything, with diet, drugs, surgery, there's going to be a period of 6 months or a year where they continue to work, and then you plateau. Absolutely. Right. But this rapid, and they all work. Mm-hmm. Everything works, right, through decreased energy intake. You got to take in less. Eat less, exercise more. It's exactly right, but no one could do it because of these addictive circuits. These drugs just allow you to do it, right, and get it done. Now, there's one other thing that I think is at play that we've not realized. There's food addiction at play, the central part of the brain, right? The reward circuits, the aversive circuits counter that. But for those of us who struggle with the weight and have had this visceral adiposity and this inflammatory soup, the liver leaks out these free fatty acids, the amount of blood glucose, right? The amount of insulin, my insulin levels creep up because I don't clear them, right? So if you look, increasingly the American population has elevated insulin levels. We're hyperinsulinemic, right? And that insulin resistance, right? And it's very hard to sort out. Does that visceral adiposity, does that visceral fat come first, or does the insulin resistance come first? Right? Is that hyperinsulinemia? So it's very hard to sort out.
Like chicken or egg.
Hyperinsulinemia, it's causing real metabolic chaos, real cardiac kidney disease, right? And the other thing these drugs do is they slow down the absorption of glucose from the body. The problem with these ultra-formulated foods is they're not even foods. They're just these mixtures of, glucose, fructose, starch, fat. There's no structure to them, right? They're pre-digested in essence. They're almost like eating baby food, which means they were rapidly absorbed. In part of our, small intestines, right? So at least these GLP-1 drugs, by slowing down the absorption, the food in my stomach longer, it doesn't allow this food to get into my duodenum, small intestine as quickly. So I slow down this GI, this absorption of glucose. So that slows down. this hyperinsulinemia.
Yeah.
Right.
Dr. Kessler, can I ask you something? Because I think this thing that's going to be the most controversial for our sort of community, because I think a lot of people have become true believers that these medications have saved their lives, they've shut off food noise, is the fact that you think that we can go off these meds at some point. Can you talk about how you think that might?
I didn't say. Did I say that? No. Hold on. I didn't say you can go off.
Okay.
Well, what'd you say?
I said people are going off.
People are going off them.
People are going off.
Weight off.
What?
And they're keeping the weight off when they go off?
No, I didn't say that. All I said is look at the data, get the best data you can have. Okay.
Yeah.
And, look, ask the drug companies, how long are people on them? They know they have that data. They're following this intensely. Half the people are off this in a year. That's all I'm saying, Mike.
Yeah. You've come off it yourself.
I'm not advocating that. What?
You've come off it yourself and gone back on?
So all right. So you're picking on me again. I don't want to do this. I'm trying to do this. The book is the book has a lot of science in it, fair, but it also has personal experience. The goal of the book was to bring as much scientific expertise, to talk to as many experts, right? To tell you everything I could figure out about weight in this mystery way, so you can make your own decision. Okay.
Yes.
The reality is, right. First of all, let's just talk about cost.
Okay.
It shows you. Let me get this off my chest for a second. It just shows you how screwed up the healthcare system.
You can say whatever here, man. Like it's this is
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about healthcare. The cost of these drugs. They price these drugs excessively. Fair.
Very fair.
I have three healthcare insurance policies that I just happen to have for varying reasons, and none of them covered these drugs.
Yeah.
Right.
Same. For a while.
Right. So along comes at my old agency, companies price these drugs excessively, and so imagine your whole life you've struggled with weight. Now something comes along that can help you, and you can't have access to it because you can't afford it, and the FDA, there's this loophole, call it what you want, and shortages, this compounding ability to compound, but where the drugs are, where the actual source, where the chemicals are, the what's called the API, the active pharmaceutical ingredient, those are made primarily in China, right? At places that are not necessarily inspected by FDA, certainly not. There's no reference testing standard for this compounded, but they're allowed to be sold at $200 a month rather than $1,000 a month, right? So people who want access had to resort to drugs that I couldn't assure the safety of. Maybe they worked, maybe they didn't work. Something's wrong with that. Now the drug companies come along and say, in order to compete with the compounding drugs, right? They all of a sudden they reduce their price.
Yeah.
But wait, because in the UK on the private market and in India in the private market, it costs less than compound in this country.
No. But that's brand name drug. You and I can go to London today, and we can probably pick up a month's supply at $150.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly right.
Right.
I have friends in the UK that do it.
And so what we had to do in order to get the drug prices down, there had to be compounding, which makes no sense.
None.
Right. There was no way, to provide access to these drugs. And it's still a circus out there, right? If you don't have Medicare and you don't have your employer, right? The employer's not covering it. You can get Direct Lilly or Direct Novo. It's almost a circus out there.
People with type 2.
Yeah.
Right. So, right. But let's go back to your central point, Mike, where you think, right. All I said is people are not staying on these drugs. Many people are not staying on these drugs. Okay. Right. I think that's what the data show.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm not sure. So what happened to me was I was on these drugs for 6-7 months, and then I started having some abdominal pain. Right. Okay. And I started, I know too much, right? Because you have I know you just think about constipation, common, I mean, everyone has that, right? You have constipation, but sometimes constipation can lead to obstruction. Obstruction can lead to, perforation, intestinal perforation. So I started having this abdominal pain. I said, do I really want to be, I didn't know whether it was drug or related, or I couldn't tell. I said, I lost my way. I was going to go off.
Okay.
Right. And what I have found, and this is no way to take a drug. FDA has to do a better job of getting data, requiring the companies to get beta data so we know how to use these drugs in the real world. But what I have done is I've gone off, and I try to go back on. I try to control my diet I try to condition myself. Those moments of that feeling where I don't want to put anything in my stomach. I want to change my relationship with food. I try to have that carry over to when I'm off the drug. I try to eat small. I try to change that relationship and hope, I can't force myself. I can't do it consciously. It's nothing I could think about. You can give me every behavioral modification tool under the sun to avoid that cue, right? And I can't will it, right? But my brain can, if you make me uncomfortable, and at certain points when I'm on this drug and I don't want to put anything else in my stomach, I remember that feeling, and then I learn to eat smaller, and hopefully that carries me over for a period of time when I'm off these drugs. And but at a certain point, that's going to fade. You're going to stress me. I'm going to have a life condition. And I'm going to go, I'll go back on the drug. But then what dose do I go back on? I mean, is it safe to go back on? I mean, I go on and off. Will I develop tolerance to this drug? All that has to be studied.
True.
Ooh, good questions, Dr. Kessler. I didn't think about that, honestly, because I know you had a friend, and I want to say there was a doctor in the book, right? And he would go on and then get off, and he was sort of...
You really did read the book.
Oh, yeah, we read it. Yeah.
No. So tell me what I got. So the thing, I want to know what I got wrong. I mean, you're right.
I don't think anything wrong. I think you showed all the sides, and it was great that you showed all the sides.
I showed up, but that was the goal. So let me ask you,
the best argument I've seen. The best argument I've seen for threading the needle between. I feel like we're getting caught in this country between an argument about ultra-processed foods and GLP-1 medications, and I think it was the first time I saw someone thread the needle so perfectly to say it is both, and this is why it's both, and why it's not a chicken and the egg situation. Yeah,
it's not just demonizing the food. It's not just it's. I think it's just what you said too, like talking about it from the perspective of like, it's not about weight. And that's a big thing for us as creators, like that create on different, we talk about these medicines. I would say that like us in general, we're less focused on, this is what you should eat. And this is how you should, well, that's not true. Kat makes all our exercise videos, but less about that. But we're more about like, okay, like conceptually, let's figure out what's going on here. And let's figure out how we're going to move forward into this like stage of health. And I've been lucky enough that because of the platforms that I have, that people have been like, would you be interested in coming and speaking here? And I'm like, oh, so that like as a keynote. And I'm like, but I'm an advocate. Like, I don't know how to speak like that. And so I went and like took this class to try to learn how to like be a keynote speaker. Right. And when I did, she was like, now listen, advocacy speaking and keynote speaking are really different because you have to have a lesson with the keynote. And she asked me, what's your lesson? And I was like, it's not about weight. It has nothing to like, it's, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's what, and I was so excited to hear you say that, because I think that again, like we've always considered that that's the problem, right? The weight is the problem. But I think that it's more about like you said, like the dysfunction that's within us, right? That happens. And for whatever reason, like however we got there. And I'm not sure that it matters. What I think matters more than anything is how do we keep it from happening to our children? And how do we have better food going forward? Because like my son's autistic. And so food is a struggle for us, right? A big struggle, enough food, the right food, like all the things. My husband's autistic, same thing. And so but I don't want him to struggle. And I know when I had him, I had obesity and he was swimming around in insulin, and we're learning all these things. And so it sort of like has put me in this place where I want to figure out how do we change things. And so when we're talking about like these foods, and then I see all these studies that are coming up, we're not studies, articles that are coming up that are saying, now big food, right, or however you want to refer to it, is trying to hijack GLP-1s. And I'm like, we have to talk about this now. Like, we have to make sure that we are showing all sides of this so people don't walk into this thinking it's like Phenermine or a diet pill or anything else. Like, it is about treating a dysfunction and being the healthiest you can be, you know? And
what do you think the book's about?
Really important.
Yeah. You know, I spent years of my life writing this book. I'm into it. I'm talking to every expert, right? How many experts did I talk to? How many experts do you think I talked to?
A lot.
Right.
There's a lot. You have like a whole back of the book.
It's insane.
It is. Yeah. It's, yeah.
What's the book about? Tell me what the book is about. I wrote the book. Yeah. I know what the book is about. Tell me what the book is about.
Let's see what I'm about. I was just enthralled. I'm not going to tell you what it's about. I feel like I'm in class because I just.
He's the professor in him.
They call this thing in med school.
Yeah, I know. The hedonic system in your brain, like how, like the dopamine triggers the neurological. Just, I got very nervous.
You got it. Keep on going.
And then there was a certain point, I'm looking at my chapters here. It was at 18, the diet section. Mm-hmm. For a second there, I got a little bit like, oh, here we go again. I have a doctor telling me to go low carb. Oh, here we go. And then I'm going to be binging in a few days. But then there was always this point where you wrote, if you were suffering with an eating disorder, we don't recommend this. We don't recommend intermittent fasting or these sort of diets. Basically, you still always brought it back to home where we just need more nutrition. We and our brains are wired to be, like you said, to get hooked on sugar, fat, and salt. But that's. I think I got.
The goal was to. Well, let me ask another, and I apologize for phrasing it.
I like this.
Is that okay? Can I ask?
That's a great conversation.
Am I in a good book club? Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Am I in favor of these drugs? Am I in favor of these drugs, or am I too harsh on these drugs?
I don't think
you're both.
Harsh. You know what? No, it was, to me, what I pulled from it, doctor's care. You need to have a doctor observe you. You need to have
that too.
What I pulled from it, I probably would not recommend people just to go lose 10 pounds at a med spa and get on semaglutide. But it does need close medical care when you're.
Yeah, I remember, I think it was chapter 14 that I was just going through it and being like, this should be the instruction manual given to every single doctor in this country. Because I got handed a box of medication with no instructions whatsoever.
Nothing.
I got sent to the diabetes website when I asked for how to take these. Yeah. And so that was the chapter that I think it was 14. It just knocked my socks off. And I'm like, can they just put this in the box of Mounjaro, please? Thank you.
Yeah.
That was the goal of the book.
Yeah.
The goal of the book was to give people information so that they can reclaim their health.
Yeah.
If they wanted to, right? It was just to give as much information about these, and to call a spade, to say this ultra formulated food is addictive, that these drugs are one tool, that they tamp down the addictive circuits, that they only work while you're on them, but we got to figure out ways in which to use these drugs in the real world for these to be effective. And there's no end game here.
Yeah.
Right?
I got that. Yeah.
Other than health.
I loved your closing chapters where you really looked at systems and sort of how this could all play out and how we can actually change some of the systems to make it work. I'd love some of your thoughts on that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that, look, there's something wrong with this picture. Fair. I mean, you have one industry making billions of dollars, not to demonize, but let's face it, you have an industry making billions of dollars that, selling food is making us sick. You have another industry that comes along making equal profits to reverse what the former industry does. I mean, anybody coming down from Mars looking at that would say, hey, that picture is screwed up.
Yeah.
Fix the root cause, right? But here's the drill, right? I couldn't wait. I mean, I'm now 60 pounds lighter than, half my percent body fat, right?
Yeah.
That visceral adiposity, that was 30% plus visceral adiposity. I am half that today, right? And I couldn't wait for my food environment to change. I mean, I'll be dead, but long, before the food environment, this obesogenic food environment changes, unfortunately. Yes, maybe we could have some effect on it, but I wanted to give people the tools, right? I mean, if I can decrease your visceral adiposity, right? If I can reduce your change this abnormal lipid profile. If I can reduce your blood glucose, I could reduce your blood pressure, do some basic stuff. You can be dramatically healthy, right? And that was the goal. But again, there's no one and done here, right? I mean, you're showing the world how it can get done. I mean, the three of you. I mean, take a bath. I mean, my goal was to play. What's the way to say this? To almost play catch up for the medical profession, right? Because cardiologists, nephrologists, endocrinologists, obesity medicine specialists, we're just waking up to the fact that this visceral adiposity is causal.
Yeah.
Right. And it's causal. I mean, and, I don't think, again, I think these drugs are just enormously powerful, but they're one tool. Yeah. Right. And you got to put it together. You got to put it together for yourself. And it's a range of tools.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's true. And I think, I will tell you, and going back to that addictive brain, and we talk about, even Kat will say, because she's always been really into fitness, and she'll be like, listen, there's disordered eating like crazy in the fitness side of things. Like, they ain't got to figure it out either. You know what I mean? And I think when you're sort of looking at the big picture here, that addictive piece, I think, is really important, because I do remember that shift being so abrupt for me when it happened, that I did not know what to do with myself, how to reward myself, how to celebrate, sorry with the thumb, how to celebrate, how to, I keep it on because it's so fun. Watch it makes fireworks. She's so fun. But
I'm afraid what's going to happen next. I know.
There's, I think it's double thumbs. I think is fireworks. Let's see. No, there's one that's fireworks. It's fun. But yeah, so I didn't know what to do with myself. And I think that I just sort of started shifting the addiction. Right. So I was obsessed with creating content about it. I started a podcast. I started doing all of these things to try to fill that space and reward me and get sort of that dopamine hit a different way.
You're chasing it, right?
Yeah.
And then that makes me think of, when say a lot of bariatric patients, they do experience where sometimes they get that transfer addiction. So they can't physically eat. So sometimes they start to drink or something like that. Yeah.
Fill the void. If I can't get it from food, right? I mean, there you just have, major restriction, right? I mean, on food, you can't get it from food without, without doing real, long-term, look, even we see in bariatric surgery, the stomach, the intestines can adapt, and people can end up taking in a lot of food over time. But, but these circuits are there. Right. I don't think you can outrun these circuits.
No, I don't think so. I do think that the idea, the around mental health and cognitive behavioral therapy, having the ability to kind of slow down and recognize what's going on and try to shift and make different choices and fill the space in other ways. Or I think sometimes just kind of sitting with yourself and being enough, right? There's a lot of mental stuff that I think goes around this that we have to learn. And frankly, I learned this the hard way, and I learned it all over the internet. So it's because it's such gymnastics to try to, because there was nothing. And the reason, Dr. Kessler, the reason that TikTok and Instagram and this podcast, all these things exist in the way that they do is because there are not enough doctors that haven't read your book. Like if they could understand what's actually going on, then they could treat us better, and we wouldn't be going to other patients to try to solve problems for us that frankly a doctor should be trying to work with us and solve.
100%.
So that's a massive gap, and I'm concerned that gap it's shrinking and getting a little bit more so, but there needs to be more something, especially with our primary care doctors, because they honestly don't
cover a lot.
know.
They cover a lot.
I mean, they don't.
That's what
ours.
Mike, I interrupted you. I apologize.
I said we end up training our doctors. My doctor now asks me questions when I go in.
You want to move up in dose? I don't know. Right.
They have no. I mean, that's why I wrote the book for everybody.
Yeah.
When you write these books, and I've been a dean of med schools. I end up writing for two audiences. I want to push the field. I want to educate my colleagues, but at the same time, I want to write for a general audience because I want to affect public health. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, so the question was to put this information out there to get the best. I mean, I probably spoke to 200, 300 experts are in the book.
Yeah. So many
to really get the and try to cover the range from food addiction, to what's the consequences, to how these drugs work, to, what do you do in addition to these drugs about nutrition therapy, physical activity. Kat, I could take you around the corner. You can see my gym set up. Right.
That's cool. Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, because the other thing is, it's very important. On these drugs is, Kim was saying she was on 500 calories a day. Right. That's semi-starvation. We got to be careful.
Yeah.
You lose when you have decreased appetite to that extent. Sure, you're losing fat, but you're also losing muscle. You're losing bone. You're losing everything.
Yeah.
And, when you get into your, you go 60, 65 plus, right, you start losing muscle anyway, and you lose, what's called fat-free mass. And these drugs, the only way, it's absolutely essential that you try not to lose the muscle. You're losing the fat. The only way to do that is resistance training.
Yeah.
Right?
I wish I had started that so much sooner, but I'm telling you, nobody told me anything. It was 3 years ago, but nobody was like, hey,
and no one taught me.
14 a day.
How to do that?
Nothing.
What's your go-to, Kat? What's your go-to in exercise and physical activity? What do you?
I love spin. I do a cycle class every day, and then I lift weights at home.
So where do you spin?
Cycle bar.
Cycle bar. So I actually
in New York? They have them in New York. Are you in New York?
I don't want to get into. I don't want to promote any one. But I've been to every. I still I've been to every Mad Dog spinning class. Right. Oh, wow. I go back. Right. I did Saturday. I did a double. Right. Right. So I could spin
sometimes.
I can spin with best, but resistance training. To do a squat, I had no idea.
You have to do it. Oh, really?
Yeah. Right. So I had to get I got this personal trainer. I had to find somebody. I went to take this course for a weekend in barbell medicine. I flew out to LA and I took these guys this course and got this wonderful trainer. But for me, you look at my very small. I have no muscle, right? The way
did you mention that in your book as well? The barbell.
There's a section on resistance training about how it works. It's still relatively when you come to understand it. The only way to build muscle is to basically tear it apart a little, right? And it sounds relatively Byzantine, but that's the way. That's the best way to do it. Are these sort of micro injuries, right? let it build back. And it certainly worked in my case. I mean, I actually gained muscle back.
That's cool.
Great.
I will tell you, like this year, I didn't have a weight loss goal for the first time, I think, in my life, even though I technically need to lose more weight, right? I was like, I just want to get stronger. I have this really big, deep tub in that my brother-in-law put in for me years ago. And my brother-in-law passed this year from type 2 diabetes complications. And he had a heart attack, and he's in his 50s, way too soon. And I was like, I'm going to be able to get in and out of that tub by myself easily without being a slippery salamander. I'm going to work on strength. And I have, but my scale's going up. So it freaks me out, but I'm trying to do the quote right things. You know what I mean?
So let's just talk about another side of this.
Yeah.
Right. How do we reach that 50-year-old, right, who has visceral adiposity, who has metabolic disease, that guy, how do we reach that person?
How do we reach him, Mike?
Well, yeah.
The funny thing is, when you said guy, I immediately said that's the problem, because men have such an aversion to this. I mean, queer men less so, but straight men, it is so hard to get them and not see it as weakness. And I think one of the biggest things we have to overcome in this world is letting people understand that this truly is a disease and it's not their fault and a weakness. And until we sort of define that around masculinity, that's not a weakness, I don't think you're going to get that guy to go do it. At least you're not going to get him to do it and now tell anyone else that he's doing it.
Yeah.
Well, but we've changed those things in society. I mean, I had the opportunity, the privilege to see tobacco.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. That was one of the great public health successes. So your podcast is called Plus Size.
Plus sides. It's the plus sides of GLP-1 medications. Like, it's all about the health.
Right. But you play off this term plus size.
We do, because we're still plus size.
Now, is that a guy thing, or is that a
good point? Yeah.
I mean, is it a guy thing?
No.
Yeah. I mean, so how do you can you do me a favor? On certain days of the week, can you change the name so you get guys to talking about this stuff?
We do have guys talking about it. I know it's.
No, but you got to. I
see where you're going, Dr. Kessler. Yeah,
we do. We have this really vibrant community on TikTok full of actually male creators that do exercise.
So I couldn't find TikTok
don't get on it. I think it's banned. So
not this week.
Not this week. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's been very slow growing over time, but luckily we have creators like Mike and other men that have been coming forward. And so there are men on TikTok. And so they instead of just seeing us, the GLP-1 group.
But how do I help get this message out? Right.
Yeah. Coming on the podcast is a great part.
I think there's a lot of sort of bro-centric podcasts about lifting out there. Yeah. And I think getting into that space, getting in front of that audience would make a huge difference.
Well, like Dr. Spencer is
Spencer Nadolsky's podcast, Docs Who Lift. I mean, that gets to men on these issues.
Yeah, that's a good one. Docs Who Lift.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, because this is. I mean, that's what I care about. Right? Yeah. I mean, and I mean, it's the guys who are dying several years. Earlier than women. It's cardiac disease, it's stroke, it's diabetes, right? And I mean, and that is, the longevity is sort of the in word, right? Yeah, sure. But this is all about, but prevention is really longevity. Let's face it, right? Yeah. And finally, right? I mean, we understand, what this is causal. And that you can reclaim your health, and it's achievable. Again, there's no one way to do it, but it's this visceral adiposity, and we didn't understand that.
Yeah.
And I got to be able to get that message out, and that's why I wrote the book.
We should definitely introduce you to our friend Dave, who has a very large platform and has type 2 diabetes and is a patient advocate as well. And
he's got to read your book. Let's make sure Dave reads it.
Yeah, you get seriously. Right.
Dave,
that's our goal.
And it's not about the book was just, I had the privilege of doing tobacco.
Yeah.
Right. I had the privilege of working on HIV.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I had the privilege of, working on COVID. I understand, intense period for everybody, right? We got to the other side. And this is the one, I think this is as big as tobacco.
I think you're right, because I think it's so deeply ingrained in our society and in everything that we do and deliver from a consumer perspective, right? And I think that's something we try to talk about too. The podcast motto is get loud and change things. We're just trying to elevate the conversation of a very serious thing, as opposed to just 1 minute and 3 minute TikToks, for example, right? And something that I would say that we've really been digging into lately, which we're so glad to have you on the show for sure, is again the issues with what's going on with big food, and how do we kind of get around this or avoid this or change this? And I don't think we know the answer. I don't think we know, as a community, as patients with voices, how do we get involved in things? One thing that we did specifically is we just had on the CEO of IMAC. Do you know IMAC? IMAK. So basically, they're a nonprofit, and they are kind of exposing how big pharma has taken advantage of the patent system and the loopholes to be able to keep these drugs from coming to market from affordability perspective, right? So we talked with them about that, and we're talking about and so we're trying to elevate this, because we do, Mike and I and Kat, we all very much want to be able to.
So you have, I don't want to do any politics, no politics.
No, we don't.
No. But here's but this MAHA stuff has touched a chord. Fair?
Yeah.
Yes.
True.
Right? I mean, and chronic disease is part of this.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. But the focus right now, let's just discuss this for a second, is that people are focused on food dyes, on preservative, and however laudable that is, right? That's not causing this visceral adiposity, right? I mean, however, right? I mean, let's. It's just.
We want to be able to affect and change policy, right? And we are seeing that there are some efforts that are happening currently politically, even though we don't get political here because we represent everybody, right? But still, these are things that are occurring. So how can we raise our voices as patients to be able to affect policy and change? How can we become part of that?
So again, I had the privilege of working on tobacco.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing I've seen or experienced, especially in Washington, you have one chance, and you got to get it exactly right. Right? You got to hit it on the head from the beginning, right? I think we know. I think we're waking up to what's killing us, right? And it's this visceral adiposity, and we didn't understand it, and docs didn't understand it, and it's what's causing type 2 diabetes. It's what's causing cardiac disease, right? And I think that there's a focus. I think there's a correct focus that it's the food. It's not the food. Sorry, it's this ultra formulated, this highly processed, high glycemic index, energy dense food. That's not even food. Doesn't occur in nature, right? That's at the root cause. But there are increasing segments that are focusing on food dyes. They're focusing on seed oils, however laudable that is. And I'm not saying that doesn't contribute. That's not where it's not the real culprit.
Yeah.
The real culprit is this energy density, this fat and sugar, fat and salt, fat, sugar, and salt that's making me hyperinsulinemic, right? These highly processed carbs that are getting whacking my insulin levels just sky high in my blood glucose. And that's what I think we have to focus on, right? We also have to focus on making these tools available to people. We have to give people access to these drugs. There is no reason why these drugs should not be available, right? I mean, at a couple of $100. I mean, equivalent to what these drugs are in London. Yeah, and the problem is you have almost too many players. I mean, the employer should be contributing something. The company should be taking these prices down to the direct pay price. I mean, if they take this down to $340 or whatever they're selling this, and employers start kicking in a couple of $100, then, and it's all these PBMs and all these contracts, and it's this web of things that are getting in the way of making these drugs accessible, and all this pre-approval nonsense. We got to get rid of this stuff, right? So, and we got to make sure we educate. I mean, it's okay. We can educate the doctors.
Yeah,
right?
we can.
And because they, in the end, are going to make sure we don't get into trouble. When you're taking 500 calories a day and you're losing weight, I want someone taking care of you.
Yeah.
I want to make sure you're not going to get into trouble. I want to make sure, right? I mean, and I don't want you figuring it out for the first time on yourself.
Which is exactly what happened.
And there's no way to practice medicine.
Yeah.
Right?
No. Yes. None of the patients want to or need to be practicing medicine. We need care. And I do think we are worthy and deserving of that. And I don't know if I will tell you, like, okay, so I'm trying
and that
to.
care has to be paid for, right? And in the end, it's cheaper. It's cheaper to pay for it. You want to pay for it now, or you want to pay for it when I'm on dialysis?
Yes, for sure. And I think, like, if we don't find a way to solve for this, and I try really hard. So my background's in marketing and cybersecurity. So I have a lot of these, like, sort of webinars and things where we talk about all the big scaries, but we usually have some sort of, like, takeaway and actions at the end, so people have a little bit of hope, right? So I want people to be able to understand what's going on with their bodies in terms of this disease, how these medicines are treating it, right? And then, like, how, again, like, you can be this healthiest you. But ultimately, at the end of the show, I want them to also understand where they can advocate. So if we want to push companies to be making these kinds of changes, like to include things from, like, whether it's obesity medicine care, or whether it's, do we need to go and I hate to say protest, because, like, I know that's kind of a word right now, but like, be able to demonstrate. I don't know. I can't.
I want people to understand what the problem is.
Yes.
Right? I want to understand. I want to be able to get people the tools. I want to be able to give people the information and the tools so that they can reclaim. They can put this together for themselves. We each have to put this together in our own way. Fair?
Right.
There's no cookie cutter approach. Fair?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
We all respond to these drugs in a different way. We all get stressed at different points. Are these addictive circuits? I mean, for each of us, it's this cue-induced wanting and this craving is going to occur at different times a day and we have to use different tools, right? My goal was to show people you can put it together. What you're doing is showing people you can put it together and you could reclaim your health. And in the end, what you want, right? You eat differently today than you did prior?
Yeah, because I don't want that stuff anymore. I literally don't want it. And if I do,
and that's all you got to do, right? Because once you do that,
no binging,
right? Then you're into, right? You're in the airport, right? And what are you looking for? Can you find anything?
I like cheese and apples. Like, that's what I like.
Can you find anything to eat in the airport?
Last night, I just got a grilled chicken at the Atlanta airport because that's all I wanted.
I mean, there was nothing. I mean, there's nothing. I mean,
there really is no fruit
available. You had to go to 3-4 different places to go find it.
You have to find, and then, like, the fruit trays at any of those airports, $20, right? Yeah.
I mean, and so the once we change what we want, right? Once we know how to do this,
the feeling,
the industry's going to follow. I'll tell you, the industry's going to follow.
Well, they're trying.
They're starting to already. You're right.
But first, but we can control this, right? We got to be able to get our employers to pay for this. We got to get the insurance companies to pay for it. We got to get the federal government to pay for this.
Yes.
Right? Everyone chipping their fair share, and you can make these drugs affordable. Get the companies; they're not going to make $1,000, a month. Let's take that off the table, okay? Right? But they're lucky to be making several hundred. But they let the employer kick in some of that. Let Medicare pay for this. What do you mean they're not paying for this? They're discriminating against people. I mean, who are obese and overweight. Let them try.
Your argument on the ACA.
You want to build a movement?
Tell us what that was, Mike. What was the question?
Your argument on the ACA in the book was brilliant. How you think the ACA already covers that, correct? Is that how I read that correctly? I think that was brilliant.
Can you explain?
And you just go tell Oz, that he's got to stop discriminating against people who are obese and,
Yeah. I think, I will tell you, my parents are on Medicaid or Medicare, and my mom I would say struggles in the realm of 30 right, to 40 pounds. She's smaller human. I'm a big, tall human. But she got to the point after my dad has diabetes, heart disease. He has chronic cancer. He has all these different things. And he is now on Mounjaro. I've seen a massive difference already, but like his kidneys are better and all these different things are better. And so when my mom saw me doing this, she was like, I think I should look into this because I can't stop. Like the only thing that gives me joy is eating these things with all the stress that I've had in my life with my sister having cancer and my dad having cancer, all these things. She gets hers because she can't get Medicare to cover it from another country.
Which is absurd. Let's stop.
It's absurd. It has to go sit out.
But Medicare wants to pay for dialysis and cardiac. I mean, they're willing to pay for everything when the organs fail.
Yes.
Right.
And like what blows my mind too, Dr. Kessler, is like, and I get so fired up about it, but what blows my mind is when I went to the Senate Help Committee, when they had that, when the CEO of Novo Nordisk came down, my family and I went to the hearing because we're nerds, and we went and we were listening to kind of what he had to say because we want to understand like why things are so expensive here. And it blows my mind that we have the amount of data that we have to prove that we will see a return on our investment if we treat people now than if we will wait. Like it's not like people get in remission, if you will, right, in terms of type 2 and stuff within months on these medicines. We're not talking 5 and 10 years of seeing a difference, and that will affect. Like I think that if we don't,
you're absolutely right. I mean, the fact is, sometimes 2 to 5% weight loss.
Yes.
Right, and that visceral fat goes first. You can make a dramatic change.
And then people get off other meds, and then they aren't on dialysis. Maybe they don't have Alzheimer's. Like all the data is there to prove why this decision makes sense. But still,
their argument is that it's
doing it.
They say it's going to the cost of the medications is going to bankrupt Medicaid, right?
Or we need to pay for it so that there's
the only reason the companies are charging $1,000 is that's what they can get away with in the United States.
Yes,
right. And employers are getting away. Rightfully so, the employers don't want to pay the entire $1,000. I mean, I can understand that we're bankrupt, but at least pay a couple of $100.
Seriously,
I mean, at least let pharma take this down to $350 or something like that, and the employers start paying, and the PBMs get out of the way.
Yeah,
and stop all these impediments. I mean, and this is doable. I mean, except that we just got this screwed up healthcare system and no one's calling them on this.
Yeah, we are.
I
don't know what good it's doing, but we're doing it every day.
And I'm with you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Well, this has been a lovely conversation. Friends, do we feel like we covered everything in our questions and our conversation?
That was just amazing. That was one of the highlights of my time online.
So good. Yes. I love it. This has been great. Is there anything you want to ask us? I mean, I know we talked a lot.
Will you have me back?
Yeah, hell yeah. You want to come back?
Emphatically, yes.
Yes, absolutely. And I will tell you, we do have a planned event / protest in October with a company or an organization called the GLP-1 Collective. And we will be trying to create things around that to be able to like bring light to this in person, because I did find when I was there in person, and I know that Mike can attest to this because he's done similar things. When you're where the decisions are being made, and you can't just be scrolled through, there's a lot of power in that presence, you know? And I think that we have to get outside of our comfort zones and show up so people can see what this looks like, you know, because this isn't just a bunch of fat people that want to get skinny. This is a bunch of people with a disease that just want to live, right? And we'll be able to afford to live, and we want our children to live and our grandchildren to live. And we just want to affect change.
And we know how to do that. We finally have the tools to do that.
We know how to do that.
That's right.
And compared to like, you know, with tobacco, was it sort of when you hit on something, whereas you have to get the timing right? Would we say like, could this be the right timing for
is it the right time?
You know, is it the right time?
Here's something I've learned. Okay. You know, people who study policy generally teach that you have to wait for the things to converge in the right time to converge, and it's chance when all these things come together. I actually disagree. I think what I've learned is people make this happen. Right? I mean, you make that timing.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, there are, yes, the country's focused on other things, but I think the American body is ill. Only 12.2% of us are metabolically healthy. Ultra formulated foods are addictive. These GLP-1s can help tamp down these drugs, but ultimately we got to change our relationship with food.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And we can do that.
We can.
Right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right? And we never knew how to do it.
Nope.
Yeah. And I think you're right. And I want people to understand. And the problem is to get people to understand this, they still are drawn in by a weight loss medicine to lose weight. That's still the messaging. And no matter what I say about what these actually are, because we learn from doctors like you on our show, I can't change it. Like, that's what it's like. I'm in marketing, right? So it's all about the funnel. That's what brings them.
And then it's weight, then it's cosmetic, and then it's vanity, and then it's stigma, and then it's shame.
Cosmetic, definitely, yeah.
Right. I mean, in the end, it's killing us.
It
right?
is.
Yeah. I mean, and you don't realize it until you turn around, until you're 55, right? I mean, and you see the consequences.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Yeah,
and you don't turn, but there's not a family in this country that has not had a loved one. I mean, and not seen it firsthand, and we've not known what it was.
Absolutely.
Right? We call it cardiac disease or kidney disease or diabetes.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, even certain forms of cancer, right, and certain forms of dementia, and we call it by different names. We have different medical specialties, and we all live in our own world. I mean, and there's a central cause, right?
There is.
I mean, and you figured that out. Take a bow.
By ourselves, together,
everybody.
I think the power of like what we have built on all the platforms together, these patient groups who have obesity, we have very powerful messages. I don't think I even realized it until I started having more in-person things, and like I realized recently I was really honored. I got WebMD and Medscape chose my patient story to present at these like 15 different locations for these PCPs to understand obesity and understand like how this works. And I don't know, I interview other people. Do you know what I'm saying? So I don't know, like, how to do it. So I kind of talked with them about it, but what I noticed is there were 3 people in the room with me and they were all in small bodies. Right. And I don't know what they struggle with or if they struggle, but they definitely didn't seem like this was something they really knew. And they were all moved to tears. And I wasn't even telling a boohoo story. I was just explaining my experience.
It's amazing being on those stages and just seeing the heads nod when you tell your story.
Yes.
Amazing.
Because it's so interesting to see, honestly, like to see that maybe they don't have obesity, but I bet you they love somebody that does. The numbers prove they definitely love somebody that struggles. And if they can understand it better, then we can grow empathy and all the different things.
Dr. Chang, who and the audience I was on Friday, had everyone raise their hand if they knew someone. And almost 95% of the room knew somebody.
Absolutely.
But it's not just you're showing them that you know this. What you know is how to take control of this, and you know how to take control of this better than they know how to take control of them. Right. You need to.
Yes.
Sorry.
It is very difficult with what we see as advocates, right? We see people suffer.
Right, but you also know how to reclaim health. And I can say this: you studied this.
Yes,
it's the reason I wrote this book, right? Mm-hmm. And it's why it's so important for me. Help me get out the word here.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm here to TikTok right now.
Sorry.
I'll be on TikTok in 5 minutes talking about it.
Just do me a favor, because you can help lead, because docs have not understood this.
Absolutely. They don't. They still don't.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that's
it's complicated. I mean, clearly, like if you read your book, you can see how complicated it is.
Like that's the thing. I'm married to a physician, and we have so many doctors who are friends, and they watch our content. I'm telling you, they're in our lives watching. They're learning from us.
Yeah.
I mean, exactly. So this is not, I have been to I've been to almost every international, national diabetes, obesity, endocrine, heart meeting in the last several years, because I wanted to make sure that I got everything, that I had the best experts and the latest.
Some good shit in there, man.
Right? And I see at these where they have patient voices. Mm-hmm. Okay. But I think you've graduated. And I've seen this once else. You're not patient. This isn't about patient voices, right? This is patient teachers. Right.
Okay. Yeah. I see.
I mean, they're bringing you into this is for the experience. You're going to show them how you can change health. You're going to show them how you can practice medicine.
And they're asking for it. I spoke at Bio International Convention on Thursday about this exact thing, the biggest biopharma conference in the world in Boston, right? They're looking for us to come in and do this.
Right. And you can and that's, the goal is I think we got it right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you tell me, again, love to hear if there's anything wrong in the book. A lot of subjects covered, a lot of information. Right. But I think if you put it together, and you got to put it together in it, right? The biggest decision is, do you want to do something about this? That's the decision you got.
Yeah.
Right.
I think, I will tell you, Dr. Kessler, and we can end on this, but I don't know how much you are aware about the black market and gray market of these medications outside of common. Are you aware of it?
Absolutely. I mean, there's all different. Yes.
Tell you that there are likely millions of people doing this because they want to reclaim their health and they don't have access is an understatement. Right.
And there is no reason why these drugs should not be available to everybody. If we can fix the healthcare system, right? We just have to focus people, right?
I think the ripple effect of just trying to solve for obesity, in product market, we aren't talking about the problem we're trying to solve, right? If we could just try to solve for obesity,
exactly. Well, what I learned to do, what tobacco taught me, is I was heavily focused on reducing tobacco use. I was very focused.
Right.
I mean, to date, what's been the greatest public health success? Tobacco. Fair?
Yes, fair.
What's the biggest?
Second one, HIV.
HIV, right?
Yeah.
We were there. Okay.
We were there.
We did accelerated approval. We did that. What's been the biggest public health failure to date?
Obesity.
Right. And now we got it. And how long did tobacco take us?
How long? 30 years?
75 years to change.
Yeah, I was going to say,
that does make sense. You know why? Because I was just thinking about, because you're thinking about the time that it was. Yeah, for sure. Because my parents,
advertising was taken down.
The Surgeon General's report, remember?
Yep.
In 54 and then 64. I mean, there was but then the first Reader's Digest article that links smoking and cancer was, in the 1950s, right? Yeah. It took from the 1950s and now. Right. I mean, this critical percent, we look at tobacco very differently.
It's still kind of like with the jewels. I think of e-cigarettes now. It's just,
Yeah.
Well, but look, these are very powerful psychoactive forces. We need stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I need stuff to regulate my day-to-day, mood swing. I mean, these ups and downs, these little pings, these, right? Boredom, anxiety. I mean, I'm not this homeostatic. Within this, I'm up and down, and I use stuff to regulate, right? And that I was using food, right?
Yeah.
But that's not going to go away. I just need some tools to help me,
Sure.
I mean, finally we got it. Thanks for having me. Invite me back.
Absolutely. We love it. All right, team. It was 2 hours, but it was good stuff, right?
That was amazing. Are we kidding?
I didn't want it to end.
It was a lovely conversation. I think we have some really good action items to be able to spread the word and other people. I will put the book link in the show note. You can listen to it. Yeah, while you're working out. Not instead of this podcast, though. But yes, go read the book. It's important. Yes.
Very
and
important.
We'll do it
That's
everywhere. Share it with your family. It is, I'm going to be honest with you. This is perfect for our listeners. Our listeners are critical thinkers. We're an intimate audience of critical thinkers. That's how I always talk about us, because we really want to understand why, how, and how to fix it. Right. And so this is definitely that kind of book. This is not the storybook. This is what we cover on this podcast. Right. But it's to the next level and to a different perspective and a different layer of something you probably may not have considered before. I hadn't, and look at all that stuff that we uncovered and learned today. So I want you to make sure you go read it or download it. If you have like Audible, if you have Spotify, like if you have like already that, like, what do you call it?
You have premium.
Like it comes with it.
Premium on Spotify. It's already in your subscription.
Yeah. So go get it and then share it with other people, because the only way that this is going to change is if we keep talking about something, and it's very uncomfortable. And I know that, but it's something that we have to do if we really care, right? Not just about solving for the people that are sick, but keeping people from getting sicker in the future. And then also from our kids and our kids' kids. Like we've got to change this, and nobody's going to do it for us. Nobody's going to do it for us. We have to do it. Okay. So thanks so much for joining us today. I hope that you have had a good time geeking out with us on these things, and we love you, and we will see you again in another week. All right. Thanks. Let me tell you a quick story. I was telling Kat how I was regaining weight after my 100-pound loss using GLP-1 medications, and I was having snacky cravings and waking up at 3 a.m. and I had hot flashes, and I was worried. But Kat was like, listen, I went through this last year. It's perimenopause, and I started HRT, and she used this company called Winona. So I started going there to see if this was something that was going with me. Turns out it was, because I'm 46. And it's been amazing. It's taken a while to find the right dose, but once I did, it's just been huge. I've been sleeping. I feel more myself again. And the hot flashes are gone, which is, geez, really bad. So I will tell you, it's just been so big for me. And so I wanted to partner with them on the podcast, because obviously many of our listeners are going through this same age range and definitely are having these issues. And there's just no need for you to suffer. So if you go to the link that's in our link tree, you can click on that and save money. If you go there and you meet all the criteria, and this might be something for you to try. So I just want to make sure you had this great resource, because it's just been such a big difference for me and Kat. Again, you can go to the link in our link tree and get what you need. Today's episode is brought to you by Ro, a telehealth platform that's changing the game of GLP-1 access. What sets Ro apart? Ro understands the challenges of navigating insurance hurdles and the skyrocketing prices of GLP-1 medications. That's why they specialize in getting insurance approvals for GLP-1s. And if insurance is a barrier, they go a step further by prescribing brand name Zepbound vials for prices close to those of compound GLP-1s. With Ro, you're not just getting a prescription, you're getting a partner in your journey that's helping you access affordable treatment and guiding you every step of the way. Whether it's insurance approvals or cost-effective alternatives, Ro is here to make sure that you get the medication you need. Visit ro.co/plussides with a Z today to see how they can help you take control of your weight management journey with affordable, accessible care. That's ro.co/plussides with a Z, making healthcare work for you. Check out the link in our show notes for more details. Are you interested in understanding GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, or Mounjaro? Then join us on the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, the groundbreaking podcast helping people change their lives one episode at a time. The Plus Sides podcast is a disruptor. We're breaking down barriers, smashing stereotypes, and sharing inspiring stories that'll leave you feeling informed and empowered. Join us every week to learn from doctors who are specialists around GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, or Mounjaro. They'll provide you with science and facts to validate these incredible stories. But that's not all. We'll also bring you the voices of the GLP-1 Mounjaro TikTok community, real people who face the challenges of obesity related
related diseases and disorders and discovered the incredible plus sides of GLP-1 medications. Our episodes are filled with heartwarming stories, laughter, and moments of triumph. You'll connect with our amazing community members who are reclaiming their health and experiencing their fullest lives. Are you ready to embark on a journey of discovery and empowerment? Tune in to the Plus Sides Cracking the Obesity Code, and together we'll change the narrative around obesity and end the stigma. Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and join our incredible community. Let's celebrate the plus sides of life together, because every story deserves to be heard. Every life deserves to shine, and everyone deserves access to expert knowledge and medication. The Plus Sides Podcast. You're not alone. It's not your fault.